In Why Did I Get Married, Diane secretly got her tubes tied, and Terry secretly gave their daughter a DNA test to see if she was really his.
Then, in the sequel, it's revealed that Diane is having an emotional affair with Phil after she finally gave in to Terry harassing her to give him another child.
And all of this leads us to ask, were Terry and Diane ever in love, or was their union simply one that made sense at the time, but made them destined for problems? You know, we have tons of videos on the whole Why Did I Get Married franchise. They are linked in the description in a playlist for you. But we have to ask these questions because, you know, we spend a lot of time talking about some of the other characters in the film, especially Sheila and Troy and Mike. But Terry and Diane are kind of overlooked in a way because their relationship wasn't nearly as flagrant, let's say, as explosive as, you know, the stuff that was going on with Sheila and Mike, or the stuff that was going on between Perfect Patty and her husband. What was his name?
Patty?
Yeah.
Gavin?
Gavin, yes. Patty and Gavin. You know, so when it comes to all of this, if we take a closer look at these two characters, talking about Terry, you know, who is a pediatrician and everything, and he's married to an attorney. It kind of sounds like the Cosby Show, right? He's married to Diane, who is an attorney. And you look at it and it seems like they're going along to get along. And both of them have these sort of passive aggressive ways about themselves, you know? But their storyline to me is also unique because their type of dysfunction is sort of a gradual, slow burn one where the other one is hiding things from, you know, they're hiding things from one another to kind of keep things where they look really smooth on the surface, even though they are both doing things that are really irritating the other one. You know, when you look at kind of the most ratchet couple, right? When you look at Marcus and Angela, when stuff bothers them, they're saying it right then. You know, it's not this holding of things back like you see with Terry and Diane. And so, you know, with it being revealed gradually over time rather than being explosive, when we get to the sequel, Why Did I Get Married 2? It's like this retrospective lens that exposes what this original film kind of only hinted at, which is that they have an emotional like disconnect between the two of them. And it's disguised as stability, but it's really that they are truly on the rocks and in more of a way than appeared in the first film, you know. And the one thing that comes out, I think that they both, Terry and Diane, have in common is this need for unilateral control without consulting the other partner, right? You know, and that's indicative of like, oh, I'm going to go get this. And he's not going to talk to his wife about, hey, you know, is this my baby? He's just going to go get the test, but never think about what leads you to believe that the child might not have been yours in the first place. In her case, she didn't really want more kids. So she went and secretly got her tubes tied. So all this time he thinks they're trying and she's just not getting pregnant, when in reality, she has fixed this, but she doesn't want to have this discussion and confrontation with her own husband, which is really on both of their parts, like very selfish, but I can see that they seem to both be doing it in order to preserve this feel of stability in their marriage, right? They're not rocking the boat. That seems to be the goal of it. But in that first movie, when it reveals that, you know, he gave his daughter a DNA test and that she had her tubes tied and stuff secretly, like, what did you think about? Like, do you think that it's weird that it just seemed like, could the marriage survive that? Because that's like a betrayal of their trust, you know?
I don't know. I just think that one is worse than the other, right?
Which one is worse to you?
The one where you're making this decision to not have the kid when you acting like you're having a kid, right?
Right.
One is just, hey, yo, I'm just checking this thing, right? I don't think it's a betrayal, right? It may be a thing of that there is doubt for some reason,
and a lack
right?
of trust, right? Yeah.
But one is an act, and another is kind of more of a disposition.
Right. I have to agree with you on that. Like, it's definitely worse to have Terry thinking that he is, you know, that they're on the way to having this son that he wanted, you know, another kid, but it not ever really being a possibility because her tubes are tied, you know? And because what she's doing in that is taking away his opportunity to decide if he wants to pursue that elsewhere, right? She's just making that decision for him. And it's just really not fair.
Yeah, but it begs the question of, in today's world, does he even really get a say? Because we're talking about body autonomy of a woman.
Well, and I don't think he gets a say over her body in that way. What I think is he gets to decide, okay, well, you don't want to have any more kids. I want more kids. Maybe it means that that's a deal breaker for me, and I go find somebody who does want them, right? And that's what I'm saying that she took away from him, is his right to determine if he wants to move forward with her under those, conditions. But she takes that off of the table because, of course, he's not going to go anywhere if he doesn't know, you know what I'm saying? If he doesn't know that she has made it so, and he's still hopeful, he doesn't know that it's impossible because she's had her tubes tied, or practically impossible.
Yeah, but at what point did you tell?
What do you mean?
Right?
At what point should you tell?
Okay,
what?
I make a decision with my own body. At what point?
Well, I mean, I think she should have
to tell someone about this thing, right?
The only person I think she was under obligation to tell was her husband.
Right. That's what I'm.
That's it. And I think she should
not question about who, but when.
I think she should have said it before she had it done. But even if she had it done, she should have said it very soon after. Hey, I didn't want to argue with you about it. I went on and made this decision, and this is what I did. I think that would be worse.
It begs the question of where is the line? Because, okay, I went outside. I sprained my ankle. I didn't tell you I sprained my ankle. Mm-hmm. Right? At what point am I obligated to tell? You know what I'm saying? It's something sort of like that. Or, I took these, these pills, for whatever pain. Or, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Or I secretly went to the doctor and I'm taking ED. Is that what it's called? ED pills,
ED
right?
Pills. Right. Mm-hmm.
And I didn't tell you that I'm taking them.
Right. Right. I guess for me, the line is simply the point where a person is under the wrong impression about something that is critical to them.
Well, okay, let's say it doesn't involve sort of an operation, right? Mm-hmm. I've just decided that I don't want kids anymore, and she hasn't come out to tell him yet.
Well, okay, so think about this, right? The reverse would also be true. If she decided, hey, I want kids now, and they had agreed not to have them, and she's like, oh, I'm going to go just miss some pills, because it can go both ways, right? And it is still her body with her right to do whatever, but he's under the wrong impression.
Yeah, but it's still that you may take time to actually disclose something to somebody.
Well, I think that all of these things...
And it's very different to get pregnant versus not get pregnant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that all of these things add up to kind of begging the question of, what was the foundation of their relationship, and did they actually really love each other? Did they ever love each other? What did they grow to love each other? What we saw on the film in both of these movies, was that love? We got to ask those questions.
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
We want to thank all of the supporters who helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation via Cash App, or you can head on over to patreon.com/axiomamnesia to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber. So, do you think they loved each other?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, because and for those of you who don't remember, they met in college and they became a couple in college. And then, of course, they got together and got married or whatever after college, and the relationship has lasted then. And I think about, who these people were, because in this film, they're supposed to be in the films, I guess in their, mid to late 30s or whatever, right? And who you are when you're in your early 20s is not the same person necessarily. And maybe you've evolved. Maybe, what you thought you wanted for your life might be different. And it's a wonder that all of these couples have been able to maintain for this long because, statistically speaking, it usually doesn't work like that, right? That the person that they knew when they were in college is still who they're with later, in today's world.
Is there a difference between loving and being in love?
I mean, I'm going to make that distinction here because I would say that you can being in love to me is more of like all of these, the fleeting romantic feelings that come and go throughout a relationship. And I had heard a long time ago, long-term relationships like the ones people always talk about, their grandparents, like Troy's parents in the movie and stuff like that have been together 40, 50, whatever years. And I've heard love described in that way or the process of being married long term as a process of falling in and out of love with this same person over time. And anybody that you know and are living with for decades, there are going to be periods where you're kind of like status quo. There are going to be periods where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so deeply in love. There may be periods where you're even adversarial at points in the relationship, or it's not as loving. And so I think that the notion, and this is maybe kind of the managing of expectations for long-term relationships that people, especially young people, ought to understand, is that you're not going to be on that emotional high of the newness of that relationship for 20, 40, 60, or however many straight years. That's not really life. But, so that's why I would make the distinction between being, quote, in love and loving each other. So with regard to these two, I think they definitely loved each other. And I think in the beginning, when they first met, they probably had fallen in love. And at that point, neither of them probably knew what they wanted for the future, but they knew that they loved each other and were in love at that point. And so, all of the things that may become deal breakers later when you're thinking more clearly might not have been as in your face as earlier, like the role that Diane's career as a litigator would play in terms of her being a mother versus a career woman.
Yeah.
And these are the decisions that women are forced to make if they're going to be in relationships like this, right? And we recently did a video on this film, 30 Years to Life. And we are thankful to Jay Horn, who is the person who actually had us to do that. She did a deep dive on demand for that movie. And neither of us, I don't even think we had ever heard of that movie at that point. And the movie came out in 2001, and it will kind of remind you of movies like The Wood or The Best Man, stuff like that, where you got a bunch of couples, and even this movie to some extent, where people are trying to work out their lives. But it'll just remind you of what it's like to navigate life at different points. When you're in college, when you're in your 30s, when you're in your 40s and beyond. And I guess the greater point is just what is your best opportunity for stability in these relationships long term?
And that things change, right? So if we live in a world where, you should always be improving, right? In a sense, right? But if you are with someone else and both of you are so-called improving, which is basically just changing, then that means that the relationship that you have with each other is going to change.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. But let me just remind you guys that a lot of you are missing videos because you're not getting your YouTube notifications. We have fixed this. Subscribe to our mailing list for personalized notifications of all of our videos as they are released across all of our channels. You're going to get an email. It is very simple. Just go ahead and sign up. We will not abuse your email address. Okay, just so you know, you're just going to get an email letting you know about our new videos and stuff, and it'll be less confusing to you that way. The link for that is in the description. And the question, I guess, for me would be, did they ever talk about it? Did did Diana say, at some point I'm going to stop working or pull back, and then we're going to have our family, and then I'm going to return to the workforce? Or did she just not? Was this never addressed? And, I could imagine a way that it's never addressed because, you're in love. And there are lots of things that when people are in love, they don't talk about at that point. Now, do you think they were in love by the time, let's say, the first movie? When we saw them in that first movie, Why Did I Get Married?
Sure.
In love, like, the high of love. Or were they just together and they loved each other? Or do you think that's the same thing?
I think it's pretty much the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
So
I don't know if I could just constantly make the distinction, right? Because it's really just about people who have relationships. right? And it's whether or not they like each other, I guess.
Yeah.
And I guess they liked each other enough to want to still be in a relationship together.
And to do things to hide it to maintain the relationship, right?
Yeah.
Because the deception was in order to keep the relationship. She didn't confront him about not wanting kids because she wanted to keep the relationship. Same thing with him. He didn't want to confront her about whatever feelings, because he does say in the film that that they hadn't had sex much, and that was why he wanted to test the daughter around the time that she got pregnant. Well, he didn't want to.
Doctor.
Yeah.
Hey, bro.
I mean, but it only takes one good time, and maybe not even a good time. But so there's that, right? So I think that we saw signs that they actually wanted to keep the relationship. And is love the only reason you'd want to keep the relationship? Not that this is related, but I do want to segue into the idea, because it's easy to talk about how bad Diane was, but when you look at Terry had some shortcomings too. And Terry, to me, was very controlling, and not controlling over the other person nearly as much as Diane was trying to control so she could control what happened with her preferences, where I feel like Terry was trying to control Diane. You know what I mean? Like how he cut her phone off and we're not cut her phone off, but he wasn't letting her receive her calls when they were on vacation. Like, she's a grown woman. She can decide if she wants to take her calls. I don't care what she told you. It's just like, but he was like, no, she's not taking calls. She's not, and
well.
What you mean, oh,
So
well?
they get together. They're basically one, and one can make decisions for the other.
So one makes decisions
I don't really
for
think
both?
It's about, I don't really think it's about controlling her per se, right?
Okay,
it's their relationship
that for me.
Because I'm sure. All right, if I say, "Hey, yo, I'm working on my weight," right? You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to stay in shape, get my heart together, all that, right? And then I come home with a box of Popeye's chicken.
Yeah.
And then you take it away. You know what I'm saying? Then, all right. You know what I'm saying?
That's working toward the goal you said you had.
And they discussed this.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I can see that.
Right?
Yeah.
But even if it wasn't outright stated that way, I'm sure there are things that I can't think of them off top that one would do for the betterment of the other person without it being discussed. Or for the betterment of their relationship and or household.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times being in a relationship, it's about the people involved making a decision for the household.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. That's definitely true. I suppose now, and I just want to acknowledge the person who brought this up a while back in one of the comments of one of the videos regarding Diane, and the person's comment, they were like, why is it that every time that a man has something to say about the situation, and I'm paraphrasing here, that he suddenly is trying to control the woman, and that's how it's taken, like she's trying to control. And I think that you kind of gave a reasonable explanation of how of the flip side of that coin.
I do see why it's seen as controlling too, though.
Yeah.
Right? Because people still, like you say, have their autonomy and can choose to do things, and then somebody else is choosing something different. So for them. So
so I feel like in a lot of ways Terry was treating her like he would one of the kids or something. And she's
that's how you gotta
perfectly adult capable
That's
person.
what people say about their parents, right? When you get grown, and then you start acting like the parent.
Yeah.
So why would it be different just because someone is, I guess, kind of lateral? Right? At times it needs to be done. So Barack Obama was talking to that French lady, right? At one of those events, and then Michelle got between them or something, right?
Yeah,
or
I remember.
Seats, right? So
what? She just decided like this is not a good thing.
She said, I have to play the parent, basically, right?
Let me get over here before you get yourself in some trouble and you get to talking. But I guess I see that. But I don't see how. I guess your connection is saying let's take the phone situation for example, that she said, hey, I'm going to concentrate on things And he said, you said this is what it's going to be. So now
Yeah.
I'm going to stop. I'm going to be true to
Yeah.
what we agreed on.
But ultimately, I think he's wrong because she's probably best to decide if something's important or not.
Well,
not him.
right. Not you. Like, it would be like, oh, if the answering service calls about a patient and she's like, no, he's on vacation.
Right.
You know, come on. You know, because the person that she was defending, like, she had a death row.
It was a capital,
Yeah, it was the capital punishment case or whatever. No, it wasn't death row. It was, like you said, capital punishment.
That's the same
Come
thing,
on.
right?
Well, capital punishment would have been maybe before he got sentenced, right? It's on the table for capital punishment. I don't know.
Same thing, right?
But anyway, related to you could lose your life if this goes badly. So yeah. So there's that piece
Terry
of it.
might be the worst in the entire movie.
Well, and which is ironic because I think that Tyler Perry kind of chose to play that character. And we've talked about this in the past. You know, I think he wants Terry to be as close to perfect as possible, except maybe just fallible in acceptable ways. Like, he may be a little controlling, but it's because he loves his wife so much and he just wants the best for her.
Yeah,
he may be,
exactly.
you know, like Terry was never going to be the one who was like cheating and stepping out on his wife or talking bad about his wife's weight and stuff like Mike was doing. He's going to be an all around good guy in most cases. But when you think about it, like, spending time with Terry probably would have been annoying on some level, with the level of, just like first of all, Terry was also a nag. Let's be clear, because he wanted that kid and he just would not shut up. He would not leave it alone. He wants to bring it up every time, and he wasn't reading the room. If you know her so well, you know this woman for, more than a decade, and you should have known even when she gave lip service to, okay, I'm not really going to work on this trip. She was just saying something to get him to shut up because he was such a nag. That's what I think. Go to the comments, y'all. What do y'all think? Because Terry was like nagging her. It was very annoying. Very, very annoying. Let me just hop in here and say that if you want us to break down the movie of your choice, you can choose the film and we will do the deep analysis and you will be credited as the executive producer. The link to grab one of these is in the description. Our deep dive on demand is just $75. And for those of you who, $75 might not be possible in this moment, we do have opportunities for co-executive producers on videos. And so we have different price points where, you can be a co-executive producer with somebody for not $75, a much lower amount. So if you guys want to go and visit axiom.app, you'll see the videos that we have available for co-executive production on. And, we just try to make something that everybody can participate in if they want to. So, and you can find that at axiom.app/support. And the link to that is in the description. So as we talk about Diane and Terry's marriage, so do we agree then that they do love each other and at some point they were in love? We said, yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Because at one point I was just like, I don't know. Were they ever in love? Or was it just convenient? And because think about marriage throughout history. Marriage has not always involved romantic love, especially at the onset, right?
Yeah, I guess, but it wasn't like arranged. They went to college. They seen somebody like, hey, let's go on a date. Hey, let's get married. I think that's different. So
yeah, but my point here is that marriages can last and turn into something that's, good for all involved, even without romantic love.
Right, but those are the ones
onset
that I think start off like that, where it's kind of like arranged, and then possibly that may happen, right? But
right.
In most cases, I think two people,
these days
in our society, right, in our culture, two people want to be together.
They want to
get together. Yeah, that's what romance is.
So. But okay, so if we look at their marriage and let's just say it was never exposed, the things that, she had her tubes tied or all this other stuff. Do you think that long term that a marriage where the people are navigating it this way, where they're like, oh, I'm going to just get the kid tested and I'm going to have my tubes tied. And what's next? She had her tubes tied and maybe it'll be something else, right? Oh, I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do that,
It's the bigger things, I guess. Maybe she would have got a BBL.
Shut up. Why would she get a BBL?
Why not? Because it was popular in the teens, right? So at that point, that would be some issue. But then it'd be like, I want a BBL. I want to get a new nose. I want to whatever. You know what I'm saying? So, but my point is that what more or worse, the lack of a better term, could there be? You know what I'm saying? To there be that level of disagreement of, right? You could just forget about it. Hey, nobody ever knows. Oh, we tried, didn't happen, but if you ever like, okay, so let's go and try
but like, what if he's like, oh, let's get a surrogate
IVF or something, right?
right,
Yeah, exactly.
IVF. Yeah,
Once you go to the doctor together, then it's gonna be like, hey, yo, this is why you having kids.
Okay, was it better for it to come out at the table, or would it have been better? Because Terry's pushy. Terry would have been like, yeah, we didn't try for this amount of time. And, let's just go get it.
Was it this guy who was like, oh, at 7:43, you done this and that? That's him,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, he was paying attention in the second movie. Yeah,
right.
He was paying attention to details.
Oh, so he started paying attention after. Before, he wasn't that detail-oriented, right? Because he would have known this.
Well, and before, I don't think that he was so suspicious of his wife.
But he was, because he went check the daughter.
Yeah, that's true.
I
don't know.
But you messed up.
Is that
Tyler.
a plot? Is that a kind of a character defect in the writing of this character?
Not necessarily.
Or over time, is he just more suspicious?
Right. If you want to be in movie land, then things is always 100. Either they're the best at everything, right? Like you get the military guy who could just do all kind of martial arts and he notice every detail and can figure anything out, and you know what I'm saying? And then the person who's not. So, right, most of the time we get the characters when they exhibit one thing, then it's just, flawless. Right? So it may be good that, he plays all this detail and stuff, pays attention to the little details and notice it all. But, sometimes he's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or sometimes he didn't figure it out.
So let's talk about, like, in the second movie, how she has the whole emotional affair with Phil. And,
what do you mean emotional?
I mean, she didn't have sex with Phil.
Okay.
But she did emotional cheating.
We can stop there.
Yeah.
So is it cheating or not? You got to put an adjective in front of it.
I think
or not.
Well, so I think that emotional cheating is cheating in my book. I think that anytime you're doing everything except letting him put it in, or putting it in her, there's problems, because you're just a stone's throw away from actually going all the way, and this is why I think that, because, the guy she cheated with he didn't work at her firm, but, he was in close proximity. And, so that she's working closely with this guy and, trying to entice him and, just come right to the edge of destruction without going over. And eventually, one of these days, you might not be able to resist, and then you're going to wind up ruining your whole life while you were trying to play that game that maybe if you put the same effort into your relationship that you got at the crib, then things could be better there. Because just the other part, I think, is she was neglecting Terry, even though Terry's annoying. She was neglecting him. She wasn't taking that care for Terry. She was like, look, I got you this kid. I did what you wanted me to do. So whatever. Now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to flirt with Phil and whatever. So I do think that is a betrayal, what she did with Phil, for sure. Just not as bad as if she actually let him stick it in. But it's up there. And especially because she's a woman. But does this remind you of like the work wife, work husband thing? Y'all go to the comments.
They just don't work together.
Do work husbands and work wives, is what they're developing like on the spectrum of emotional cheating, or is it not? Is it just this is your work friend and they happen to be above?
You would have to change your adjective.
Okay, to what?
Right? I don't know, but it's just probably the person you like at work.
That you like the way that you would like somebody that you'd be romantically interested in if you wouldn't.
No, you're adding going to it.
No, well, I'm asking.
But I think work, I don't know what you call it, work spouse is somebody who I guess you get along with, who happen to be of the opposite sex, right? You go out and you do lunch and you know what I'm saying? You like a close relationship with the opposite sex, or same if you're, LGBTQIA.
Yeah, I guess so.
So I don't know. I don't know what you would call that. Because, so that's the thing, like, unless you're like you and you say that people of opposite sexes can't have friendships. Like it don't exist.
When you quote me, it sounds so bad.
Well, that's the stance, right? Go to the comments. If y'all think that, people opposite sex can't be friends, right? Then that's just what it is.
Okay, so this is part of a bigger theory that I have that you guys may have heard me say before. But I believe that you are attracted to, want to be friends with, you mesh with certain personalities and people types. And I believe that that is kind of like free from gender. Okay. But so I think that the thing is that if, let's just say that if you're straight and I'm a woman, then the people who are my close friends, my close women friends, if they were men, I probably would be attracted to, this, forget the physical aspect. I'm saying if they were men, these are the personality types of men maybe that I would be interested in. That's like my theory, and the same for them. So I just think people like the people who they like. And the reason you get along so well is because the person at the job is a quote unquote potential. And the only thing standing in between that potential really is the fact that you have somebody else or they have somebody else, or I don't know, that person is the age of your grandparent and you're 30 years younger, or something else standing in the way. But without these things standing in the way,
or the job, right?
Or the job, the fact that you wouldn't deal with somebody on your job, but then you are kind of dealing with them. You're doing as much as you can do given the circumstance.
Well, but you wouldn't do anything else, right? That would be as if any person of the opposite sex you want to do something with.
No.
That's that assumption.
But it's not. Right? Because there are plenty, just like if you're straight or if you're gay or whatever, there are plenty of people who could be a potential romantic interest that you are not interested in for whatever reason, right?
But I do notice there's gay men who spend time together all the time. They're like a friend group. It would assume that they all smashing each other, and I'm not saying they not. And if they are, just don't comment. Don't let your secrets out. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Right? Because they all would be interested in that same gender. Right?
But they're not. Okay. So I think the complication here is the fact that because their romantic attractions are of the same gender, then you're not getting that quote unquote gender divide on this person is off limits and that person isn't. But if the ones who are your friends would be the same, I imagine would be the same as like my girlfriends, right? Who I'm not romantically involved with. Whereas the ones who could be.
Yeah, but if they're attracted to men and they're a man, your girlfriends, if you're attracted to.
If I'm not attracted, if I'm attracted to men, then they're off limits. But.
Right. So that's like a group of friends, right? A man and a woman who are attracted to opposite sexes, then it's assumed that they will eventually smash because they're friends. Then you have to assume that the same sex ones are smashing who are attracted to that same sex.
Okay, I would assume that the same sex
ones. And if it's not possible.
Okay. Let's just say that the same sex ones that hang together, if the guy that they're hanging with is their type, then yeah, they would. But I don't think that the guy that they're hanging with in friend groups like that are the ones that are their types. The guys that they're hanging with are the ones that all have in common this other type of guy. I mean, now this is just, I don't know. Somebody in the comments, please explain this.
Totally. Just sound like I'm just making a way. I'm explaining away this.
So
problem.
here's what I'll say. Cause I kind of feel like I have because I know more women than I do men, then I would be maybe more familiar with the ideas of like how they talk about with lesbians, right? Where there are some who are more feminine and some who are not, and the ones who are more feminine or more masculine, you know, people have preferences on these bases, right? And if the ones who are the more masculine ones who might prefer a feminine one all hang together, yes, they're all
but
still
that
the
is
same.
not what we're talking about.
They're not.
We're talking about, all right, then that puts add further nuance. That's why we can't all the way go into this. I'm talking about if you're hanging in a group with other people that are of your sexual interest.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well,
right?
then,
Because
then I would say they are smashing.
Right.
If you're hanging in a group with other people that are your sexual interest because they are your type, then yeah, and you like them, the potential is there. Absolutely.
But you added and you like them. If you're in a friend group, isn't that assumed?
Depends on how you got in the friend group.
All right, what if you just worked together? You see what I'm saying?
Y'all.
You're trying to wiggle out of it.
Not trying to wiggle out of anything.
So if it's possible, look, no, it would have to be across all relationships, not just work with opposite sex people.
I agree with you there.
So I think it's possible that what's that dude named Bill? What's his name on there?
Bill.
The one who she was working with.
Bill.
Phil and Diane, then they were just work together, I think. So what complicates it, how it should have been was, I guess it's Atlanta, so you can't do that, is that if they were the black ones.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which is kind of a kinship. So I think about how we was watching this guy on YouTube and he was a Jeopardy contestant. He was talking about that. I hope he was telling the truth and wasn't just BSing. And you were like, he's a nerd like you, Quiz Bowl, right?
Uh-huh.
So when I was in Quiz Bowl, it was basically 2 black schools, you know, that would compete in the region. And after the matches, we would compete hard against each other, you know what I'm saying? Because we duking it out for the black. But then after, like, we would sometimes hang together, like, between the matches and stuff. Because we were the black ones. Right?
Yeah.
So it's that sort of a kinship. Just you may be at work with this person and then you identify in that way.
Yeah.
Hey, we black.
Yeah.
Or, you know, whatever brings you together in a work sense. But that's what happened in that other movie with the marriage counselor.
Oh yeah,
It was basically the same thing, but I think he was.
He was targeting her in the marriage counselor in Temptation, that movie with Journey Smollett.
But go to the comments and let us know other Tyler Perry movies where he used this, you know, workplace friendship sort of a thing, workplace relationship.
And by the way, we did cover Temptation and the marriage counselor, the play. We'll put those links in the description so you guys can go back and visit them. Actually, they are linked. We just have a full Tyler Perry binge playlist. And so they're linked in the description below. So just look for that playlist and you'll be able to see all of the Tyler Perry stuff. And speaking of binging, we have created what we call our bedtime binge playlist, right? And what it is a playlist of videos that you may not have seen from us. They are lesser viewed videos. So they're ones that you might have skipped or just never was served to you on YouTube or whatever. So go to the description, look for the Bedtime Binge playlist, and just put that on when you get ready to go to bed. And you might, you know, get exposed to some different movies and videos that you have not seen from us. And I want y'all to do one thing, because I know that if something doesn't feel like it's in your wheelhouse, you might just be tempted to skip the movie if you're like, oh, I never heard of that, or oh, I don't think that's not a movie I'd be interested in. And I'm often surprised because there have been a few movies that people have either ordered on Deep Dive on Demand or movies that we just decided to watch that turned out to be way better than I thought that they would be. So trust us on that and give us a try. If we've made a video about it, and chances are that there is something redeemable about it.
And go to the comments and tell Cheri to watch the movies that I've rated 4.5 stars or higher. 4.5 to 5 stars. On my Letterboxd.
Okay, y'all, he's on me about the fact that I have been resisting watching movies that have subtitles in them because it means that I have to give them my full extra attention. Okay, yes, I will.
But those are the best ones.
I will commit to doing that. And also, one thing that I'll mention too is that those of you guys who are members know this, but we do have a member exclusive list of videos. There's more than 100, there's probably 150 videos in there by now. But we have at least more than 100 videos that are only exclusive to both our Patreon, our Axiom.app members, as well as our YouTube channel members, that they have access to. So if you're interested in that, get on the Patreon and subscribe, and then you get access to that full bank of videos. We have way more videos than you have available here just on YouTube, even with all of our channels. So, Terry and Diane, do you think that their trust issues could, especially by the second movie and everything like that, right? Because now she just done this emotional cheating. Do you think that because that's what it is? It's even
she did it for her emotions.
No, emotional cheating is the way to describe when she didn't let him stick it in, but you did everything else. You palled up, you flirted with him. You dressed for him. You imagined him. Fantasized about him. All that.
I think the adjective is important, right?
Okay, so is there a better adjective? What's the problem with emotional?
I'm saying you explained that why it was emotional, right? But I'm saying there's instances where it's not emotional.
Okay, so are you defending the position of when you stick it in and it's not emotional?
No, because that's. I don't know, sexual
That's actual cheating.
Yeah. So.
But, I should say that is clearly cheating. Whereas some people feel that emotional cheating is in a gray area.
Right, but some people may think cheating is going to lunch.
Well, right? and it could be.
And it's not necessarily emotional. It may be
spending time with somebody.
Possession. Possessive cheating.
Shut up.
You're messing up. You're my possession, but that's a whole different discussion. That's
That's
a new one, kind of.
But yeah, so I don't know. Like when I look at them, I just think that they're personally. I guess we'll find out since they are doing a third movie in this installment.
Bruh.
We'll see where they are. But I feel like
Tyler Perry should hire us for something. I don't know what it is.
Tyler, we know you're here from time to time.
I'll just be an extra or something, and then we'll be like, look, I'm in the background.
Well, I would rather be able to contribute to some salacious ideas, But yeah, in the background, I guess would work too. But
I think I could do some comedy. Y'all go to the comments. Let me know if I could put in some comedy bits.
But so it's just, to me, I think that they can survive this because I think there are people who just never upset the apple cart and they just live out life like this. You have some people who are okay with the status quo and they just are not going to make too much of a big deal about too many things because they have a lot to lose. You look at them, they're like, look, I don't want to upset my kids. I don't want to upset myself. Yeah, let me just go ahead and do this. This is good. This is not, let me just say, it may not be great. It may not be amazing, but this is still good, right? I still have the life that I wanted to have. And I think that both of them felt like that, especially Terry was fine for the most part after he got his kid and he just didn't want his wife cheating out in them streets.
So he didn't get the life he wanted, but she did.
She didn't get the life she wanted either because she had to squoze out another baby.
Oh, you talking about after that? I guess.
Yeah.
But she probably wanted that a little bit.
No, that's why she had got the tubes tied.
Yeah, but you're saying he forced her?
I'm saying that she decided that having her husband was more important than dying on the hill of not having another baby. So yeah, she got that tubal ligation reversed.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's life too, right? You're making concessions and you're deciding what things are more important. And I mean, it was kind of clear that was more important in the first place because this was why she didn't want to disclose it.
So then it's the life she wanted, right? If I go out and I want chocolate ice cream and they only got cookies and cream and I get the cookies and cream, I still kind of got the life I wanted.
Well, some people would say it ain't the life I wanted unless I got my chocolate ice cream, and it's exactly the way I dreamt it to be. It ain't the life I
wanted unless I didn't have the kid.
So I mean, but listen, and speaking of which, this is a total whole another sidebar conversation. I have been seeing, because you know how they have these channels that do like aggregates of these TikTok videos, and apparently there's like a whole thing going on there right now where women are explaining how they regret having their children. They love their children, but like they just are not happy with how life changed as a result of being a mother and all that. And I'm just like, whoa. I didn't get too deep in that, but have y'all seen that? Go to the comments and tell us.
So they wanted the children?
I think that they thought they wanted children, and then they saw what
so they wanted children.
You know,
Yeah, okay.
They regretted it, is what I'm saying. They regretted it.
I guess
that's what the claim is.
It might be a little different than, oops, I got a child.
Nah, right. It sounded like, and I don't know. Maybe they planned it, maybe they didn't.
Oops, I'm pregnant. I didn't get the thing taken care of, too. It's a bunch of different ways, but yeah. Yeah. But while we're at it, let me just go ahead and hop in here and say that we do have merch, too. That's another amazing way to support the channel. But, you know, with things changing the way they have changed here on YouTube, we have definitely got to diversify. And to get yourself an Axiom Amnesia hoodie would be a great way to support the channel. You can find that at axiom.app. And this is a cute hoodie. Don't y'all think so? You know, I just think that Terry and Diane, you know, they'll limp along. They'll be fine. Now, what will it be like once the kids leave the home and go to college? You know, and so if they have their last kid in their late 30s or whatever, so, you know, they'll be approaching 60 by the time this kid is pretty much out the house and they don't got to deal with this, you know. So we ain't getting no younger. We might as well stay together.
Listen, nobody got no time to be, unless it's real bad, like nobody got no time to be trying to start over at that, you know, at that age group and whatever. Although there are plenty of people who do. And if you are one who had to start over, nobody's saying that that's just the way everybody got to decide for themselves. But, you know, Who gonna be on your bed at your bedside? You know? Bruh.
Well, that's
you know, that's
the
the reality that a lot of, you know, and I say this, but I really mean it.
I guess.
That a lot of these men out here who done had 1,000,001 kids that they didn't really take care of and didn't develop relationships with, gonna be wind up being by themselves in the 11th hour.
Oh, what's that one song?
What?
You know the song, the Something in a Silver Spoon. Cats in the Cradle.
Oh, yeah, Cats in the Cradle. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all go look at the lyrics to that song, because I never had looked at them before you pointed it out to me. I mean, I've heard the song a million times, but I had never listened to the words.
Yeah. And it's kind of like Fast Car, too. Tracy Chapman. Yeah.
Tracy Chapman.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, some people like, you know, I have kids, you know, women, right? A lot of times I got kids, and then, you know, I have my kids.
Well, and we talked about that, right? How a lot of especially the women these days, many of them never envisioned their family. To them is them and their kids, and you know, their other biological family members and whatnot.
But when they out on their own and they ain't, you know, in your household no more, then
you gotta get Mr. Larry.
Mr. Larry.
You know, you gotta get your special
Larry,
friend, or because that's an old man name. But yeah, but this movie, this franchise, okay, I kind of can't wait to see what the third installment is going to be like. Ooh. But I do feel like, you know, my expectations are being managed.
Let us know if we should do a video on what we think the third one is going to be, or just, you know, kind of
speculations. Because they gave us the framework, right?
Yeah, I guess I didn't read it or nothing.
I think they said that it's about somebody's kids getting married or something.
Oh.
Somebody's daughter's getting married, or is that the other Tyler Perry? I done got them mixed up. But anyway, we'll just have to see what it is.
If you made it this far, type emotional cheating in the comments so we'll know you're one of the real ones who stick around to the end.
And be sure to check out one of the videos that's on the screen right now. And also be sure to visit axiom.app, where you'll find all of our videos that we've released in one place across all of our channels. Just go to the description for the link, or axiom.app.